You're not recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Stormwater Committee, Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. Called to order at 1:02 p.m. In compliance with the governor's COVID-19 orders, this meeting is limited to 23 individuals being physically present, inclusive of committee members and staff. Masks and social distancing will be enforced. There is also a remote participation Zoom meeting. It is a public meeting being it's not being video recorded. It's being audio recorded for cable broadcast and internet posting on www.dighton-ma.gov and YouTube. Zoom meeting number is 879-3145-5419. The password is 072779, and the call-in number is 929-205-6099. And with that, I would ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The only mic that we have working in this room for this audio recording is on this computer in front of me. So please speak up or approach the computer so that you can be heard. I'm going to ask for a motion to take agenda item 8, public input, out of order. The reason being, Mr. Touch is here, and although he's not on the agenda, he did want to make a statement regarding a project. So we're not going to have discussion, but he will be allowed to make a statement under input. So is there a motion to take agenda item 8 out of order, please? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think we need to do the roll call first.
Oh, okay. I'll suspend the vote on the motion and just go for a roll call. And we'll start, Mrs. Grassi. I know you're not on the committee, but you're here.
Todd Pelling, Stormwater Agent.
James Aggie, building official.
I'm Barry Harris, Subdivision Chairman of the Planning Board.
Bill Furnett, Conservation Commission.
Nancy Goulart, representing the Board of Selectmen. I will now, is there any discussion on
Yes, Madam Chairwoman.
the item to take this out of order?
I believe Mr. Touch has a representative that is en route.
Oh,
Is that true?
oh, okay, all right, so, change the motion, amend the motion to read when Mr., is it O'Leary?
Yes.
When Mr. O'Leary arrives, we will take this agenda item out of order. Oh, wait a minute. Forget the amendment. Yes. Okay, so is there any further discussion on taking agenda item 8 out of order? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Pilling.
Aye.
Mr. Aggie.
Aye.
Mr. Ferry.
Aye.
Mr. Rhymes.
Aye.
Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
And Mrs. Goulart, aye. Mr. O'Leary, you're up. This is the only working microphone, and we aren't video recording. We're doing just audio, so you're going to be talking into this computer.
Okay.
What I explained to the board in taking this out of order is it's not an agenda item, but the request was made to make a statement. So that's why you're here. And so same thing with Mr. Touch, okay?
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you mind if I take my mask off so you can hear better? Or you rather
No,
not?
and by the way, Mr., if you look towards Mr. Furnett, it would help because he has hearing.
Okay, Mr. Furnett.
I can read lips good.
So
Okay.
So you can take it off.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Furnett and Nancy and everyone else. I'm Jack O'Leary with Green Seal Environmental. I'm here on behalf of TLC Development. Joe Touch is here as well. And we're here to discuss lot 22 Horton Street. the question came up at the last Conservation Commission meeting about whether a stormwater permit would apply under the bylaw. And during the meeting, I had reviewed the bylaw online prior to, and during the meeting, I took a look online and apparently accidentally went to the older bylaw that referred to the 5,000 square feet of disturbance being a trigger. The newer one, which I was directed to, has changed that to 35,000 square feet. I guess the reason this came up is because we are in front of the Conservation Commission to amend a previously granted order of conditions for a driveway crossing through a wetland. And the thought was that when that square footage is added to whatever disturbance occurs for the proposed single-family dwelling that the driveway is intended to access, that could exceed 35,000 square feet. Subsequent to that meeting, I did take a look at it. We don't have a definitive plan for the house yet, but we're preparing something. We prepared something for some of the other permits that are required just to illustrate it. And it would appear that the total disturbance would exceed 35,000 square feet. However, but based on our read of the stormwater bylaw, we don't think a stormwater permit under that bylaw applies, not for that, even though it exceeds the 35,000 square feet. We don't think it applies because the bylaw exempts any project that's has obtained an order of conditions. Now we have an order of conditions for the driveway, and we anticipate that any home development on the land would be in the buffer zone. It would itself require an additional order of conditions. So that is why we think the bylaw doesn't apply. So that's our position on that. We'd be happy to discuss it, the details of that if you would like.
And again, because this isn't on the agenda,
Mhm.
we're not going to get into a discussion today because we
Okay.
would be in violation of the open meeting law,
Okay.
which would mean I'm going to ask if anyone on the committee wishes to make a statement.
Sure.
But we're probably going to have to move this to the next meeting date. And
Okay.
we haven't set that. We'll do that today, but we'll certainly let you and the property owner know what it is.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone wish to comment or make a statement? Again, we're not going to get into a discussion. This is only an informational thing, and it will appear on a future agenda, just so that we have a rough idea what their side is and if there are concerns from members of the Stormwater Committee. I'm the one who suggested, I was sitting in on that COMCON meeting the other night, and I'm the one that when I heard the discussion of replication of wetlands and all that, excuse me, I asked the question, how many square feet are we talking about from the driveway entrance off Wharton Street into the property? How much is going to be disturbed? And no one had a definitive answer except Mr. Digits said the replication area is at least 22,000 square feet. So if you think about the replication area, it's actually double because you're going to disturb where it is and you're going to create something new. So that's already 44,000 square feet. Again, the whole point was, do they need a stormwater permit? Because what he just mentioned in our bylaw came up. So that's why I asked Mr. O'Leary and Mr. Touch to come if they wanted to make a statement today to give us some direction. So again, if anyone would like to make a statement, again, we're not getting into a discussion because of the open meeting law. So, Mr. Aggie.
I think this committee needs to debate this topic in detail so that we know exactly when a stormwater permit is applicable. We certainly we understand this committee does a great job in its enforcement oversight, but we don't want to have applicants apply for something that they're exempted from. It seems to be in off-record discussions that there's a little bit of interpretation that needs to be discussed, and some committee members might be looking at this from a little different perspective. So I think it behooves us as a committee to look at this in earnest. You raise a valid point. We appreciate that. We want to make sure that we're doing our part in the correct manner. So I would suggest that we put this on a future meeting as soon as possible so that we don't delay any further projects and we don't ask any other projects that aren't applicable to be applying for a stormwater permit.
Anybody else?
Can we ask questions?
Yes, as long as we don't, as long as the question is in the form that would be beneficial to gather information for a discussion. But you ask questions, there won't be answers today.
So I know you don't have the plan done yet, but any idea how much disturbance in the wetland buffer zones that you're talking about?
I haven't worked.
Because I know you said, what, 11,000 square feet of wetland filling and another 11,000 replication or something like that, so, but I didn't know where you were
Okay,
at.
so that's an area we're gonna need an answer on. Anybody else? Mr. Ferry?
So the replication area in question has its own water conditions already, right?
Yes. The replication area does not have its own order of conditions. I mean, it's not finalized yet, should I say. It came back for amended
So
conditions.
that's one of the purposes of the stormwater permit, so.
It came back and they're filing, so can you just explain to the Stormwater Committee which other permits you're filing for this project?
Go ahead.
Yes, we have an order of conditions for the driveway crossing, and that included the replication area. And just to get the numbers about right, they're roughly, each one is roughly 12,000 square feet. So it's 24,000 square feet of disturbance right there before we get to the house, which is why I'm fairly sure we're going to be over 35,000 total on the lot.
Sorry, to that replication area.
Just gonna-
Clear bit of disturbance as well.
And that probably would be part of the area that is cleared for the home anyway. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. We have the order of conditions for the driveway. We filed a request to amend that for a number of reasons
With the Concom?
with the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
That was the hearing you were at.
Okay,
And mainly just because we found an existing culvert that would serve the same purpose as building a new one. So we figured it makes more sense to use an existing one. Because of the amount of wetland alteration, we have filed with NEPA, the Mass Environmental Policy Act. That's the ENF form that gets everyone in the world gets notified about for review. We have just submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers because they require a 404, Section 404 water quality permit for the same reason, the amount of wetland alteration. And we have, it's very frustrating. We're waiting for NEPA to give us a file number so we can then turn around and file with the DP for the their permit for the amount of wetlands being altered. So there's 4 permits. You might say this is adequately regulated with all the agencies taking a look at it, I suppose. So is that helpful, Nancy?
yeah. Any other questions or comments? Or can you think of any other information that you're going to need in order to act on this as an agenda item at the next meeting that we schedule? Because hopefully we'll have one meeting and questions will be answered. I just, if there's anything that we need to ask for, so they don't have to come back again and come back again. When I talked to Mr. Touch, the other thing I said to him was, it is not the intent of the Stormwater Committee to collect fees for permits. And obviously, if another board, commission, whatever, has the rules that would, our requirements would fall under, then we would defer to them, whether it's conservation or some other group. So the intent really is to determine, is a stormwater permit needed for this? So that's why, if anyone thinks of anything else that they might need, I would say get in touch with Mr. O'Leary and say, by the way, when you come in, if you could have this also. Okay, Mr. Aggie, yeah.
I know this is an ongoing project that's evolving, but the site plan, which shows the disturbance areas, when will that be ready?
I have it here right now. For the part we know of, the home development part is not worked out yet. So
So
we have it generally.
by the time of our next meeting, I would like to know on that site plan, what's the area of disturbance that falls under the control
Okay.
of the Wetland Protection Act? And what's the disturbance outside of that area? I think that's relevant information so we can have a healthy discussion.
The order of conditions that we have or are reapplying for or amending doesn't encompass the house. So are we looking to have the stormwater permit cover the entire project at that meeting? And will you grant a stormwater permit without the Conservation Commission agreeing to the project? In principle, the Conservation Commission has agreed to the project. Initially, they gave me,
Yeah, check into that.
sorry, Nancy. They gave us an order of conditions in March 11th, 2020 to build the driveway. I since fired the engineer. We no longer do business with that engineer. There were some permits that were missed that Lisa identified that we've applied for. So it's not that I'm afraid to apply for a permit or don't want to apply for a permit or somehow think that I don't have to apply for a permit. It's the question that I have for the board, and I know you can't have an answer, is how do we not know if I need one or not? I don't want to come to another meeting to present the same stuff again to find out I need one or I don't need one. How do we not have the answer on whether or not we do?
So that's why I'm asking if anyone can think of anything that hasn't come up here today. I have Mr. O'Leary's card here. Get in touch with him and say, by the way, at the next meeting, we also need this, so that when they come in, they're fully prepared. The plans that are here can be reviewed, so that if there's anything missing from there, certainly let you know ahead of time. To issue a stormwater permit without the sign off of everybody that gets involved, we can't do that. Okay.
Right, so that's why I don't think.
Hopefully, we schedule a meeting, all the information's here, we have the discussion, we figure out if there is another board or commission whose actions will take care of the, I'll call it stormwater management plan, everything that has to be done under a stormwater permit, then the board can decide whether or not, how they're going to handle this. Because again, we're not here to collect fees for permits, okay? We just want to make sure that a project that is constructed meets all the requirements. You know, and I think people forget about this at times. If there is a violation in a community in the course of a project, and for some reason, somebody drops a dime to the EPA, because I know we all talk about DEP. In the state of Massachusetts, the EPA has primacy for stormwater. And I've already asked this question once and been told the answer from the person I deal with at EPA. If a violation is found, and that violation is the result of whoever the authority is in town that deals with stormwater, it will be the town or the community, the city, that gets fined, not the person who created the problem or violated the rules. The town or city would have to go after that person who did that. But if a board makes an error and doesn't follow the bylaw, the stormwater bylaw and regulations that we filed and that got approved, they're going to hang us. So sometimes we have to ask for a lot of details, but again, we're only looking out on the town side because we don't want to get fined because we didn't do what we should have done. And we don't want to get into litigation with somebody who actually caused the violation. It's just, that's just the whole thing's a nightmare. So to hopefully address what we're talking about right now, I think we have a plan. We're going to set a meeting date for TLC and representatives come in to make a presentation. I assume you're going to leave documents here today. All right, and we'll give those to Mr. Pilling for review. And hopefully we're going to have one meeting and we will have all the answers we need so that you won't be coming back and coming back
So
and coming back.
It's still not entirely clear, Nancy, on, we've been continued at the Conservation Commission. They held our plan back due to what, Jack? What was the continuance regarding?
I think the continuance was primarily due to this permit.
Correct. Which we can't.
It was waiting on the other permits, like all other permits is what.
But then why wasn't a conditional approval given pending all those permits?
Well, you already, like you said, you already have approval, you're just asking for a couple of changes.
Yep.
But I think the commission wants, like Jim has said, and I agree with him on that, is that we want to see disturbances within the wetland, disturbances outside the wetland, to see if we do need to apply to stormwater.
So
So
then
there's-
we need to submit the plan with the home on it and encompass all of that work into the amended order of
Why
conditions.
not?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but that's not how I thought it needed to be done, but that's fine.
I'm assuming you prefer one order of conditions instead of 3 or 4 on one
There's
property.
one,
Well,
but he had a
has-
change, a couple of changes.
Initially, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Initially, there wasn't, the home design wasn't done up until a couple of weeks ago. We kind of put some estimated areas of disturbance on the plan that we filed with NEPA. Or,
Yes,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like so many acronyms, I get lost, so.
Yeah, it makes sense because they wanted to see that.
Right,
They, and I think they're wrong, but they were concerned because they try and force something called segmentation. They don't want to have another project added on that somehow escapes their jurisdiction, but it's a single family lot and it's always going to be one, so it didn't make sense. But we've got something on there, showing what I would call it a maximum
right.
disturbance area.
And none of it's into the 50, some of it's just into the 100-foot
Just
buffers,
the-
none of it's into the 50,
Some of the
50 or
yard-
anything. It's some outbuildings. It's not even the primary house.
So there is a plan drawn that we could get a copy of.
I have it right here now.
Oh, that's the complete plan?
It shows the house, but not every last detail of it. It doesn't show the grading. That has to be worked out as we're progressing with that.
Okay.
It shows the area of disturbance. is
Okay,
what I get.
so I would request that Mr. Pilling, our engineer, has a chance to take a look at it. And if there's calculations or something he needs, he will get in touch with you. Does that work for you, Todd?
It sounds like that plan is more than adequate for what we need to have this discussion.
But I think, Jim, I need to get the Conservation Commission at their next meeting to agree to that before I bring it to this meeting. Is that, so then at our next hearing with the Conservation Commission, we will add the house as we shared it with NEPA, amend the order of conditions as necessary, and then come back to you guys with the completed, here's what we're gonna build.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, the commission doesn't want to keep amending orders, that's the thing. I just don't do it.
I don't want to either.
When is the Concom going to meet again?
May 20?
And, I think everybody in this room who knows us knows that we didn't try and skirt any regulations. I was misguided. I was told I could go out and start that project, and we did.
There were some boxes missed on the application and it.
That's fine.
That's what, I just want, you guys, we're good people, and, I like the gray area, don't get me wrong, but.
This conversation, with due respect, goes beyond your project. That's why I want to have it as a group, because I want to make sure in the future, including yourself, that we're requiring the permits for the right time and we're not requiring them at the right time.
And
So
we're not duplicating anything or, as I say, we're not here to collect permit fees for the sake of collecting fees.
And when Lisa told me that I needed those permits that were missing, I was like, I didn't, okay, I don't know. So I called the engineer and he was like, well, you got to get them. And I'm like, you told me I could start. So you went and laid it out. So there was just some missed signals on this. And like you said, I think everybody kind of missed stuff. I did, the commission did initially. There was intermittent streams versus perennial streams. And I think I'm glad it's behind me. Unfortunately, Jack and I have exchanged quite a bit of money to get it done, but it's been quite expensive to get those other permits.
Is there anything else that we need to do? Are we all set? It's understood. If anyone thinks of anything, they'll get in touch with Mr. O'Leary. And when Mr. Pilling has a chance to review plans, if he needs anything, he'll get in touch with Mr. O'Leary. And I have his card up here. So. Okay, all right. So we will, we've got it, all right, so it's the FinCom's, the Concom is the 20th, all right. So we're looking at,
Can we just get in touch with you right after that?
Yes.
Nancy?
yeah, as a matter of fact, what I'm thinking is before the meeting adjourns today, we will set the date for the next meeting. It's probably going to be the week after that. It's just a matter of what day of the week it will be. That's what we'll do. Okay.
In hopes of getting that approved or amended at the next.
Or at
meeting.
least us getting an answer on what what the Stormwater Committee's position is and whether or not a stormwater permit is needed. Because beyond that, we're not involved with the other things. I mean, you got Concom and other agencies, so that's the main question.
One of the unique things here is we don't intend on starting work until late summer anyway, just due to the water flow, so we have time to get all these things in a row. I just don't want to keep kicking the can down the road.
No, and we don't like to continue. The only thing we're continuing it of late are hearings on solar farms, so.
Thank you all.
But, okay, thank you for
Thanks very
coming
much. I'll
in.
bring the plans up.
Okay, so, and yeah, Mr. Pilling will take them.
Zero touch. G-Love Construction, no recycling.
Go what?
TUT.
Oh, okay.
I'm Gilly's son-in-law. We spoke on the phone quite a bit. I'm Gilly's son-in-law.
No.
To the face, yeah. Good to see you. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, we're almost at that public hearing.
Point of order, you have to, as a board, accept the plan, or just a minutes long, we'll accept them.
What, they're just being dropped off. We don't vote to do anything.
Okay.
They're just, it would be just like they came into the office and dropped them off. Okay? No, when we actually have a meeting, when this is on the agenda, anything that has to be acted on will be acted on at that meeting. But any vote at this point relative to this would be illegal because it's not an official agenda item. Okay? Thanks for coming in. All right, so we got the public hearing starting at 1:30. Is anybody there?
Everybody's been admitted and they're in the meeting.
Chris, are you there?
I am.
Okay. Do you want to start on the continuation of the hearing?
Sure. The left off last time was we were going to be providing hard copy materials for review by Todd. So we had those overnighted to the Stormwater Committee. And we were just hoping to get some feedback regarding any alterations that needed to be done so that we could finalize these plans and stormwater calculations.
I'm passing out the 11 by 17 that they mailed.
And I know representatives from Clearway are also here in case they wanted to add anything.
Yeah, hey, this is Dan Von Allman. No, I don't really have anything to add to that, Chris. Thanks for the quick recap. So yeah, we're interested to see if there are any comments or questions on the plans that were provided that we can either go through in this forum or set up a time with a smaller group to review. But happy to use this as a chance to go through that if the committee is ready to do so.
Other than, okay, other than the two of you, who else is present? Because we'll need the names for the minutes, even if they don't speak. You have Chris and Dan?
Yeah, Tom, do you want to introduce yourself and then Marissa?
And where's Marissa from?
I'm sorry, Marissa is probably with on another call at the same time. She's with Signal Energy Constructors, but I know she was going to plan on listening into the call today. Marissa, if you're there, if you'd like to give your name and information.
I'm just renaming her so that everybody on the screen can see where she was from, that's all.
Yeah, and Tom Daniels from TBC is here. Sorry, I had some phone difficulties for a second.
There are 4 of you?
Correct. 4 of us here in total.
Okay. Okay, so we have plans. You want to move ahead with this?
Yeah, so I have looked over the plans. In general terms, they pretty much addressed everything we wanted. You know, sorry, people keep signing. The big outstanding issue that I have, and we've already talked about it, is that the depth of the basins and some confirmatory test pits where they're going. Because obviously, if the basin's in the water table, we got to redesign it. So we talked about the idea of they want to get in there when the tree clearing is being done, because otherwise they're going to make a royal mess getting in there to try and dig some test pits. So it had been suggested that we go in and do the tree clearing, and while they're in there doing stumping, we can just dig the test holes and confirm things. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, they go to the drawing board before they start putting panels in and shaping the land and all the rest of it. So that is, like, we'll say the biggest thing that that I have. The only other thing that plays into this is they're using infiltration out of 2 of the basins. And we would, at that point, need to make sure we have a separation of water table maintained, or we're going to need groundwater mounting calcs, but that can be addressed again once we know where the water table is. The only other 2 things that popped up was on sheet C8-02, which is near the end. They have a chart on there that says the post embedment depth, and it has 3 different wind speeds. How is the contractor supposed to know which wind speed he's building a post for?
If you just give me a moment, I'll let me just look at that sheet. Maybe I can give you an answer, or else that's it sounds like you're referring to a racking detail.
Like a last sheet in the stuff. I don't know. The last page.
Yeah, I've got it in my.
Yeah, there's a chart. It says post embedment depth table based on soil type and the embedment depth, and it's based on wind speed. And there's 3 different wind speeds of 90, 105, and 120 miles per hour. Well, based on the wind speed, it's a different depth of pipe, but who decides what wind speed we're putting that pipe in for?
Yeah, so I think that would be covered in, I can totally understand why that is confusing as drafted. There is a separate scope of work document that would define wind speed ratings between Clearway and Signal as a construction contractor. Marissa, I saw you just came back, so I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but
yeah,
from my view, that's what would define that.
The Massachusetts Building Code for the state calls out each town independently and provides the governing wind speeds that we have to follow. I don't have it pulled up right now. I'm away from my desk at the moment. With your question of like if you have multiple post embedment depths or multiple size posts, we have a logistics coordinator that will sit and color code them and work with the field crews to get the right pieces where they need to be installed. That would come during the IF generation of issued for construction documentation on the structural set.
Todd, it sounded like maybe your comment, and hopefully I'm not misinterpreting, was that as it's represented on the plans, because multiple embedment depths are provided for different wind speed assumptions, that could be a point of confusion for the contractor, and that a clarification would be to just identify what the wind speed requirement for the building code in Dayton is, and make sure that that is clearly identified as the requirement for the site. Is that the clarification that you would be looking for there?
I thought this was a construction set of plans and giving it to a contractor saying, here's 3 different post depths. Like they don't know which one to use. That's why I thought this was the one that applies to them.
They are construction drawings for the civil portion. The structural portion is completed with the racking vendor and is provided. We typically don't submit those for stormwater purposes, but if you want them, we can pull together the structural set and send that over to you.
Well, I think one thing is just a matter of the construction set, and you're giving the contractor three choices of what to do. Obviously, it always going to choose towards it. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a choice for the contractor to decide which that's all. But no, it doesn't have anything to do with stormwater. I just thought it was a little odd to give a contractor a choice. So.
Yeah, we can ensure that the finalized set of plans would specify which wind speed to be used. That's no problem.
All right, the only other thing I got is on that same sheet. It's not, where we go through the wetlands there, is there a pipe under the road there or not? Because I feel like there was, but there isn't one shown on sheet 8-02. And your watershed shows the time of concentration going right through there, like there is a pipe under the road, but if there is a pipe under the road, are we beefing it up? Are we keeping it the same? What are we doing? And it doesn't show on the plans.
Okay. I don't have an answer right this second for you, but that's just something I'll have to look into and double check, and I can get back to you on that with an answer.
But other than those three things, and obviously, that's going to be used in construction documents. It doesn't necessarily apply. Right from the road, like say that is just something we need for construction. We already talked about doing the dust pits at the time of the tree clearing. So, I mean, I think from my end, we're just about there. Now, I know there's still and the building inspector, they may know more about the width of the road for the NFPA going through the wetland. They changed it everywhere else to 20, but through that stretch, it seems like it's still narrow or narrow. That's still an issue, but.
So for the record, the fire chief has said he will agree to a narrower width through the wetland area. But he didn't give me an exact standard to go by. I think he's looking at it as case by case basis. So, he's on vacation this week, so I couldn't get his input for this meeting. But we plan to do so just to make sure that he's in agreement. Because if he's not in agreement, then we need to make a modification.
Yeah, I recall that too, that he wanted 20 feet. And my recollection was that through that stretch where it goes near the wetland, that 16 was acceptable, which is what we show.
You're correct in that recollection. So as long as we're doing that and the chief is in agreement, I think we'll be okay.
I have a question. A couple of us were actually asking on sheet C8. 0.02. So you showed an inset of the pool area, but you didn't go as far as to show the arrays to the west. So could you change that so that we can see, maybe make it bigger, make a different scale, so that we can see the arrays and the grading?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear the last couple sentences there.
Okay, sorry, I didn't okay. Like I'm speaking to my kids. Sorry. All right. Sheet C8.02. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. So the inset you provided doesn't seem to, a couple of us noticed, doesn't seem to include the area to the west that any arrays and grading would be. And if you'd like to see that,
Okay, I caught that you wanted us to enlarge that inset on that sheet to include area to the west that may have the array in it. Is that correct? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. We can revise that sheet and resend it along for you to, for the board or you and Todd to look at and make sure that we're including what you need to see in that inset. That's no problem.
Just so we make sure that we get this right on the first try here, can we try and get a little more clarification on kind of how far you want to see that to go. I guess I'm looking at sheet C402, which includes the vernal pool area and that array to the west. And so it sounds like maybe that's not enough detail, but C802 is too far zoomed in. Is it, are we just looking to take that to a little bit broader view here?
Well, the answer for you. Go 25 feet outside the 200-foot buffer zone. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, so you want to see 25 feet beyond the 200-foot buffer.
That is correct.
Okay, that's no problem.
Great, thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, the girl is really soft, so that's why I had to crank it up so we could hear the girl talk, so yes, she's really loud. Comparatively speaking. We'll turn it down.
Does anyone else have comments? Mr. Ferry?
I have a question for Todd and Jim, probably more Jim. On the southwest corner, that retention area, the type of structures they're installing looks like it's right at the edge of that slope, so is that a possible erosion problem that needs to be backed up a little bit more, or you good with that?
Well, if I put in all that riprap.
When we did the field trip, it's quite steep right there already.
It is, well, that's how they get all the riprap there, is to spread it out and slow it down.
No.
No?
My question is the type of poles in the ground.
Oh, I think you.
Right here, these, the hole in the structure, should they be away from the edge of the lawn to protect the structure?
That's at the edge of the drainage basin, it's only gonna be 3 feet deep.
So,
That's not at the slope.
It's already dropping down.
Yeah, but that's here. This is where it starts to drop. Down here. So this is flat here and you're done. So he's asking about the poles that are gonna be a drainage basin 2, that would be to hold up the panels that are right near the edge of the side slope of the drainage basin.
What page are you on?
C4.02.
Okay.
C4.02.
So Mr. Ferry's question directly, this is Jim Aggie, our building official, is he's concerned about the posts supporting the array itself being too close to drainage pit 2. Basin 2. So I haven't seen the elevation, the construction drawings, obviously, they're not ready yet, or then haven't been submitted. So, an easy solution to this, as long as the wind loads were acceptable, would be to cantilever the last couple of panels. That would eliminate the post from being within the plane of Basin 2. Or perhaps you've already done the structurals and the post isn't a problem, one or the other.
I know, I can tell you that on these panel racks, the posts are not located right at the 4 corners. They are inset slightly, so there's at least one pair of modules that does cantilever over the edge. But I think we could I'm sure we could work it out that we can shift a row or 2 of panels away, so that to make sure that the posts are not encroaching into the downward slope into the basin. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm not speaking for Mr. Ferry, but because of the steep grade there and the potential for erosion, I don't think he wants the interference of the panels or the posts if the maintenance needs to be done to that basin.
Okay.
But the other 2 basins, the panels are right through the basin, down the side slopes at the bottom of them, and right through. They're on the next sheet, so.
We haven't gotten there yet.
No, we haven't gotten there.
Yeah, on those other 2 basins, those are, we had consulted with Signal on that one, and since those are pretty shallow, it is possible to. I've seen them on sites before. You can put the posts into shallow basin areas if necessary. But again, if there are specific posts that are going to fall into the side slopes that you're concerned about, I'm sure we can work with them, or they can specify those posts or panels being shifted around to try to avoid that. Because I understand you don't want anything that's going to sort of deteriorate or erode the side slopes into a basin.
Or prevent maintenance of said basin.
Correct, yeah.
Elaborating on Agent Billings' comments, there's a panels located in the area of the discharge location, one of the basins. Obviously, that potentially creates a concern for us too. I think it might be basin 1. I don't know the plan as well as Todd does, so excuse me. But so yeah, we would just have concerns for that for the ongoing maintenance down the road.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. We can certainly reconfigure that outlet to shift it over or away from where they're going to be post locations, as well as the outfall. So that way, maintenance will still be easily, readily available to the crew.
Okay, yeah, there's the context of that. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make those changes.
Anybody else have anything? Mr. Mullen, Town Administrator, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Do you wish to comment, or do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, stay there, Mr. Mullen, because I'm going to make a comment. At the last meeting, towards the end, there was a discussion about the location of the driveway off of William Street and the concern that we expressed about that road, not a driveway, a road, going right through a very, very busy part of the parking lot. It actually goes between 2 parking lots at Arujo's farm stand. Have you considered moving that driveway south?
We've had a preliminary conversation on this amongst the project team. And I think the next step is we need to talk to the Arujos about their preference. Getting back into some of the continuity issues that we talked about last time, our digging through old data rooms and communication suggests that there was a very specific reason why the landowner wanted access through that point. So there is, I guess, 2 separate conversations going on. One is in confirming with the Arujos that they still want us accessing through that point. And the second was us sharing that feedback with Signal as the contractor and the need to develop a specific access safety plan to be discussed as part of the pre-construction meeting, if that point of access is still maintained. So unfortunately, I don't have a specific answer or outcome for you on this one, but it is something that we're working on.
I'm glad to hear that you had some discussion, because I want to advise you that on April 27th, Mr. Mullen, the town administrator, Mr. Aggie, our building commissioner, Mr. Ferry, highway superintendent, Chief Bob McDonald, police department, and I are planning to have a meeting, because from just a general discussion standpoint, this appears, that driveway in its current proposed location appears to be a public safety nightmare. So I'm glad to hear you've at least raised the issue, because I'm sure we will be having feedback that we can give to you relative to our concerns about public safety. And that's why in this meeting that's been scheduled, obviously we have the chief of police involved. So I just wanted you to be aware that on the town side, a number of town officials have major concerns. So we will get back to you with that information.
Okay, yeah, thank you for making us aware of that. Is is that a meeting that you would like a Clearway representative to be in attendance at, to be kind of a direct recipient of feedback? Or would you guys prefer to talk amongst the town and we can catch up afterwards?
I'm just looking, it will not fall under the open meeting law. It will just be an internal meeting. Town Administrator Mullen, what's your feeling on having somebody there from the developer side?
Yeah, like, I'm not opposed, just so we can loop everyone in to the same questions and concerns and issues that we're trying to work through. I actually think that might actually be helpful.
Okay, and I certainly don't have any opposition. So just a question to the Stormwater Committee. Other than the people I've mentioned, would any of you like to sit in on that meeting? Because if so, we'll post it. We're gonna specifically focus on the location of the driveway as it leaves William Street and a potential public safety problem.
I think we should keep this away from being an open meeting and just let only 3 members of the committee.
Okay, fine. Okay, obviously we'll report back to the full Stormwater Committee, whatever comes out of it. Okay, so just to let you know, Mr. Mullen, if you would set up a Zoom meeting for that day.
Yes.
And it's scheduled for April the 27th at 2 p.m.
I believe so. Let me just check to confirm. Yes, 2 p.m.
Okay. And then anybody from Clearway, if you would just contact Mr. Mullen so he knows who should get this email with the Zoom link in it, please.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Mullen, is your contact information available just on the town website?
Yes, it's on the town website under the town administrators website, and I actually just updated it the other day, so it's all there. Feel free to give me a call or send me an email.
Okay, great. I'll coordinate with you about who will be in attendance.
Great, thanks so much.
Okay, is there anything else on to discuss on Clearway, and do we continue this hearing further? Because I think we still got a couple of open items here.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's just a couple minor things. I think we could start talking about conditions of the permit. But again, one of them would be the pre-construction meeting, the erosion control, the test pits prior to construction. Like, we can word all that stuff, and I think we could put something together so we could talk about it at the next meeting. By then, hopefully, they'll have additional information for us by the next meeting.
Okay.
My only word of caution is based on the meeting on the 27th. If an alternate entrance needs to be discussed, that's going to change our role, at least potentially yours, Conservation Commission. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying we have all the right people at the table that day to discuss it.
So obviously the meeting on the 27th, we will they'll have somebody there or some people there, so they'll know what's going on. They'll know if they've got to make changes or modifications or, and as he said, they probably will talk to the property owners so the property owners understand the position of the town relative to safety. And so going forward.
Oh, wait, I just have one more question.
Go ahead.
What's a rubber water bar?
Oh, it is there's a detail on the sheet. Hold on, let me find it for you. On sheet C 8.01. It's basically, and we've used them on other sites too, where it's a buried section of wood that has a thick rubber, almost like a rubber blade that sticks up above the ground about 3 to 4 inches. And what it is it's just a water diversion device that vehicles can drive over, and it just snaps back into place after they drive over it. But it allows for, you can direct water off of a driveway in a particular direction. We've used them many times on other driveways, especially ones that have steeper grades. We'd have a series of water bars to make sure that water gets directed one way or the other and to prevent erosion on gravel roads.
It's a collapsible berm. Well, it's definitely part of your drainage system here, so it would have to be included in the maintenance plan.
Yes. Yeah, no, it does need regular inspections, and they don't have an infinite lifetime. So eventually the rubber blade would have to be replaced, but they do last for several years.
So that was, instead of putting in any catch basins or drainage, you decided to put in the water bar?
Well, it was based on the scope of the project what we have. It didn't seem appropriate at the time for me to introduce an entire new drainage infrastructure when it wasn't really asked for. So that's why I was hoping to get your feedback on this measure. Because otherwise, if we're putting in catch basins and other structures, where are they going to go to? Now we're talking about a whole new drainage design for that part of the property. And I didn't want to proceed with that until I was authorized to undertake something of that magnitude, because it would be a lot more work, a lot more cost, and it would be unclear as to where we would be going with this.
Right, well, the problem is right now, it's designed that all the water is going to come out into William Street, and it's a gravel road, dumping all the mud out. And I think Mr. Perry can speak on the issues they've had because of the gravel parking lot and everything down there. They've had a lot of dirt put into the catch basin in the street and plug it up. So we're kind of hoping for a way to kind of try and divert some of that muddy water away from the town drainage system.
No, I understand, and where I have the stone swale and the water bar, it's because there's a larger area of overland drainage that kind of funnels down into that road. So I wanted to divert as much as that off to the side, so that way you're only left with the lower piece of the gravel driveway that could potentially drain toward the street.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that we might not need more there, but we may not know until they're under construction and we kind of see what it is. It might be something we may have to supplement later with another water bar or a catch basin or a swale or something.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, plus, I mean, the location of the water bar was at the point where we could sort of divert it down that side road where when we were out there on the site visit, it seemed like a lot of water was naturally going that direction. So that's why I took advantage of that. If I put more water bars between that one and the street, all I would be doing would be pushing water to one side of the driveway and concentrating it on one side of the driveway, and that would just be more scouring instead of just letting it flow, sort of sheet flow over the land that's there. So that was sort of what was behind my thinking of putting it where I did. But I understand that you're going to be having more discussions about the entry anyway, so.
Right, and we can put that in our maintenance plan and make sure that we have an appropriate envelope that covers the replacement of the water bar, and if we have problems with the aggregate surface of the driveway itself from the sheeting runoff. Okay. I think we can handle that.
So I think most of the stuff now is like conditions. It's not, I mean, there's a few more information we need, but most of the stuff I think is conditionable. That's the word.
I got a question. The top sheet, page C 3.00. This is a diagram. This is a plan for the entire project. Is that correct?
Hold on. Let me. I'm sorry. Let me get to the sheet. Yeah, that shows the entirety of the array in the road. Yes.
Okay. Where are the plans? Where are the property lines? This is two different property owners. We need two permits and two of everything, even though they abut one another. Where's the delineation of ownership of the property?
Well, I could certainly provide that to you. I only provided the sheets out of the set that had to do with the redesign that we were asked to perform. But we can certainly give you the property line sheets previously done, put together by TRC. That's no problem. But
I I just want the company, Clearway, to understand that when you have two property owners, even though these I'll say the solar farms sort of run into one another, we need separate stormwater permits. If they in fact want a pilot agreement, there would be pilot agreements, because we just had this with a project in the north end of town where we had two properties whose solar farms abut one another. But we had to go the two of everything route, even the vote at town meeting for a pilot agreement. So we aren't at a pilot agreement stage, but I just want you to understand this is not one project because it's owned by two different property owners, and whoever needs to have that information at your company should get it.
Understood.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns?
Wetlands at a Concom meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so Mr. Madam Chair would like, let's say we can start putting together draft conditions so we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay,
But
we
by
need,
then you'll have had your site walk done too, and like, so we can get everything on the table at once.
okay, we need to set a meeting also to continue this. So we're looking at May. What kind of time, Chris, do you need to do the kind of things we're talking about? And obviously, you'll have information from a meeting that's going to take place here on the 27th relative to the concerns about the driveway. So,
Well, when would the next meeting possibly be of this board?
okay, we haven't set it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're meeting on the 27th, I'd probably need, if you could give me a week after that meeting on the 27th, I could have revised plans for you.
Yeah, this board doesn't meet regularly. We meet as needed. So that's why she's trying to figure out when you'd be ready, and then we can work our date accordingly.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me just look at my calendar real quick.
How's the 13th of May?
Today's the 22nd, 3rd. That would be the meeting date, the 13th of May?
Yes.
Okay, so then you would need my plans by the 6th, a week before that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff is minor that we need if I'm looking at the pipe basically under the road for all I need. So my end is easy. It was Lisa's blow up that she was looking for Conservation Commission that was.
Yeah, no,
so
and I know there was
I don't need a week, but.
I know there were questions about some of the panel locations in the pond, so I'd have to speak with Signal and see what can be shifted around and where. And there was some there may be a little bit of outlet redesign just to make sure that maintenance is going to be easy. And I just want to, and then it's just a matter of I got to make sure I have staff available to get the drafting done and that sort of thing. So I mean, if the 13th would be fine, I could get you the plans by the 5th or the 6th, if that's sufficient time for you to look at them.
The only other thing to consider here is you got a conservation order of conditions that, when are you guys meeting to talk about it? Should someone meet before or after
The next meeting
conservation?
is the 20th of May.
So should we be meeting a stormwater after that conservation meeting or before? Probably after. Then the Concom's done with it, and then we just issue the permit.
Okay, so
Does that make sense?
then that would actually be the 20th. If we go with Thursday, it's the 27th of May.
And you'll have all your ducks in a row by then, so.
Yeah, no, that's plenty of time.
All right, so the question is, when we have the meeting on the 27th of April, if the consensus coming out of that meeting is that driveway has to be relocated south of its current position, is that going to cause a major disruption in the plans?
I mean, yeah, depending on where where it's going to get shifted to, because does that mean it would involve more survey work or more field work, or I don't really know. That's sort of an open-ended question that until I know what the direction is, I can't really give you an estimate on how many,
Okay. So,
I'm sorry I can't provide you a clearer answer, but until I know where this is going, it's really hard for me to know.
that's okay. So for right now, the 27th of May, which would be the week after the Conservation Commission, would be a better time to meet.
It would, except that, as Raj just pointed out, we have our emergency preparedness intern comes in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we would prefer if the meeting was on Wednesday that week instead of Thursday. If that
1
works.
o'clock on May 26th, how does that work for the committee?
That's fine.
Wednesday, May 26th at 1 o'clock. It'd be 1:30 for a Clearway, but 1 o'clock for the start of the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. Raj?
I'm thinking we need to talk about the touch coming in that day too, so should we hear 2 rather than 1:30 or?
Oh, I don't think that one's gonna take in a half an hour.
Is that okay with you, Jim?
Yes.
The 26th at 1 o'clock? Okay, so Chris, 1 o'clock on May the 26th.
Okay.
Mr. Mullins, that work for you?
Hold on, see if he's still here. He's still here. He's not muted either.
Mr. Mullin? He might have stepped out of your office.
Call him and wake him.
You know what, let's set it for 1 o'clock on the 26th. I don't want to keep holding this up.
What? Yeah, so would you like a motion to continue Clearway till May 26th at 1:30 p.m.?
Yes, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we will continue the Clearway hearing to Wednesday, May 26th at 1 p.m.
No, 1:30.
Excuse me, 1:30, the meeting's at 1, yeah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Mr. Pilling?
Aye.
Mr. Aggie?
Aye.
We lost Mr. Ferry. Say aye. Mr. Rhines? And Mrs. Goulart. Okay, so the meeting will be on the 26th and the hearing will be at 1:30 on the 26th of May. Is that okay with you, Chris?
It's fine with me.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We'll talk to you then, and we'll talk to a subset of you on the 27th.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 5A, new business, update on Segregated River land disturbance in a wellhead protection zone. Who would like to start? Where'd she go? Okay, well then I'll start in that case. I can tell you what happened earlier today. This morning, Mr. Mullen and I and Ms. Caldonia and Mr. Clunin, the superintendent from the water district, met here to discuss the situation of the land disturbance along the Segregated River on the Taunton side, right off of Winthrop Street. Selectman Pacheco was asked to come in only so that he would know what we developed for a plan of action. And I will ask Mrs. Caldonia to give all the details when she comes back. The circumstances are such that no abutters on the Dayton side were notified, which is a clear violation. The area of disturbance is dangerously close to the Dayton water supply, Dayton Water District water supply. What we decided for a plan of action was that Town Administrator Mullen would draft a letter to the DEP requesting an immediate cease and desist order be issued against whoever's doing the digging, the land clearing, whether it's the developer or whatever. Because Mrs. Caledonia did contact DEP about this, and the period of appeal is over, but they're willing to allow an appeal on the part of the town. And we felt that the appeal should come from the request for the appeal, and the request for the immediate cease and desist should come from the town of Dayton, because the town of Dayton is the direct abutter. The town of Dayton is not the landowner per se, but considering the fact that none of the landowners in Dayton who are abutters, and the Dayton Water District, who is an abutter, and also the owners of the water supply in that area, the wells and everything else, that since all of them were ignored, the town would step up and request the immediate cease and desist. Assuming we get the cease and desist, the developer or whoever the party is that's out there will be required to notify all of the abutters. So, Mrs. Caledonia, if you would give some of the basic information about what led us to take the action we did as far as requesting a letter. And the other thing I would mention is, because this is an agenda item on the Stormwater Committee's agenda today, legally posted and everything else, after we get through with the information and you get the information you need, I am going to ask for a motion for us to request that the town of Dayton ask for an immediate cease and desist. But now, if you'd give them information leading up to why we feel that this is necessary to protect the town of Dayton and all those residents, abutters, whose rights have been technically violated.
Okay, so when an application is filed with the Conservation Commission, the abutters are notified within 100 feet. Abutters also in adjacent communities are supposed to be notified. And in this case, they were not, including the Dayton Water District, who uses the adjacent property for the public water supply. The site's within a zone 2, and it doesn't look like any reference on the plans were made specifying that. The site's also in an ORW. There's no reference on the application or the plans showing that. You know, the question on the application, whether or not stormwater management standards apply. A box was checked off stating that it's a small residential subdivision equal to 4 single-family houses or less than or equal to 4 units in a multifamily housing project, but it's actually 7 condos with 3 units each, so that's 21 altogether. So in addition to some administrative problems, there's also a number of other stormwater concerns. And in speaking with Todd, we both agreed that, you know, the project should have been reviewed by an outside consultant at the minimum. I'm not saying, you know, the project shouldn't move forward, but it's kind of an intense use for that property where it's in a zone 2. So in any case, when I spoke with DEP, they told us we should write the letter and that it would be considered, but we need to draft it quickly. So that's what I recommended the town do.
Mr. Mullen, you wish to speak?
No, just that you know, I mean, I'm ready to write the letter. I'm actually already started working on that this afternoon. pending the Stormwater Committee's discussion on this. So everything that Ms. Caledonia mentioned, is really is all of our concerns here. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone here have questions, comments, or Mr. Aggie?
Two. First, I'm sure you did your diligence. How do we know that abutters were not notified?
I got what was filed with DEP, directly from DEP.
And there was an abutter list.
There's a certified abutters list for the city of Taunton, but not one for Dayton. And I checked with Dayton to see what our procedure is, and they agreed that the city of Taunton, so if it happened here where there was a site adjacent and an NOI was being filed in Dayton, the assessor's office would tell the applicant they also needed to go to the city of Taunton.
All right, so we're confident that no abutters are notified. Okay. Second thing is, I have no problem with the Stormwater Committee drafting a letter. I'm just not sure that it's within our authority because there was no land disturbance in Dayton.
No, we're not going to draft a letter.
Oh,
Mike's drafting a letter.
okay.
What I will request after we discuss this is that we vote to ask the town of Dayton, who is the abutter, although not the property owners, but since our property owners have been ignored, and including the water, and we also feel that the town of Dayton has more leverage to say to DEP, hey, this is going to come to a screeching halt because of the violations. And then our residents who are abutters should be notified, and if they wish to speak, certainly the water district is going to have something to say. But no, we aren't going to send the letter. It was just the fact that we need to send notification down the road. We don't want somebody to say, well, that action was taken. I didn't even go to a meeting or anything. And since it's on our agenda, we thought that this would be the best way to handle it because we can show we were getting an update and this other information came to light, and we're just passing this off now to the town of Dayton, asking them, making them aware of the problem and saying, will you please ask for a cease and desist? We're just, that's basically where we're coming from.
Right, there's no disturbance, so this board has no authority.
But the fact that it has been brought before the board and mentioned, and it's appearing on an agenda, that's why we're doing that. That's why we're asking that. Does anybody else have questions, comments, or anything at all?
The only thing I want to throw out there is you mentioned there was disturbance that was right there, but they also have 2 drainage basins that the outfalls aim directly at the Segregated River, which is just north of the Dayton town line. That's our tributary to our water supply. They also have a groundwater interception trench that they're putting in. It's a couple hundred feet long. That supposedly is going to be pulling groundwater out of the ground and dumping it in the Segregated River. So there's some more clarification that is needed. I mean, like, for example, in the drainage basin, they have a 2-inch outlet out of the drainage basin, which is generally considered kind of small and tends to go into clogging. So little things like that I think they can tweak it to make it better, and I think they can still move forward, but we got to make sure the water's clean coming our way.
And they got to clear up the violations to begin with, and not following up and notifying the butters.
Well, but that's part of it. But they would reopen. What would normally happen in a case like this is the courts or DEP would remand it back to the town to reopen the public hearing at the Planning Board and Conservation Commission, so they can add in input to it, because they don't want to have to start over again. They just want to file an amended order or request to modify the project.
So the letter, as I understand it, is going to DEP, and they're willing to accept that letter and move forward with, accept that as an appeal?
Apparently, if what happens is if an abutter that wasn't notified realizes that there's a project happening that they should have gotten notified on, and they're outside the appeal period, that DEM will look at when that abutter was realized this, and if it's within a certain time.
DEP.
Sorry.
We know what you meant. You know where I live, plates, you know.
Yeah.
So I have 2 follow-ups to that. One is I want to make sure that we have standing. So I want to make sure that the letter that gets sent is going to be acted upon. And two, if we need to notify someone else, meaning do we need to notify the city of Taunton? Because I think this is important. I think we potentially have a situation with our water supply.
We're going to do that sort of. And the reason I say sort of is, there's one other little kink in the road. When we were talking about this, I said, we need to give a copy to town council. Whoops.
That's their return.
So Gay and Gay cannot represent either Dayton or Taunton. But what I said was, when we talked about it, send it anyhow, because our town council will get it and Taunton's town council will get it, and understand that Dayton is asking for action to be taken against whoever this developer is, whoever's down there digging and whatever. So it would seem Gay and Gay is going to have to say, whoops, we can't represent anybody, but they are obligated to let the people they represent know they can't represent them so they can get alternate counsel. So we figure that's how the city of Taunton will get notified.
Okay.
But I think we're also talking about the planning board here, because they issued a subdivision approval for this project without notifying the abutters planning board requirements.
That's my point. I'm wondering if we're sending the letters. Should we be sending the letter to more than one place? That's my point.
I think DEP and planning board would be.
But the city of Taunton is the city of Taunton is the city of Taunton, and all those boards fall under the city of Taunton.
So I understand. I don't want to complicate it. I think Todd, you would be right if you were asked to file a suit.
Right.
They would be named, but you're just sending it, hey, we're here, we're not rolling over, and we're.
Yeah, we're, as I said, Dayton's the umbrella for all of those people that should have been notified, including the water district, and didn't get notified. All we're saying is, as the abutting community, it's come to our opinion, to light that the rights of citizens in this area were violated because they weren't notified. Now, all we're saying is put a cease and desist on it, notify the abutters, let these people get the proper notifications, and let this go through the process. So Dayton is just stepping up, because quite frankly, it would take too long to get everybody together to issue appeals, but it would seem that the town of Dayton would have enough clout to say to DEP, hey, call a timeout. We get some real problems here. We, in effect, would step back, because I would expect those abutters, including the Dayton Water District, to step up and say, and this was the point in having Jeff Clunan here, because he agreed that the town of Dayton just saying, can we get a timeout here to give the appropriate abutters the time to do what they have to do? That's really what we're trying to do.
I have a question, but if the Dayton Water District is, my question is, are they the major landowner that have bought this project? So if they are, then they should be the lead entity to send out all the communication to the city of Taunton, just have the town of Dayton as a backup, even though potential residents along that area were disturbed.
Okay, but they can still contact the city of Taunton. We're not going to the city of Taunton. We're going to DEP. The town of Dayton is contacting DEP and saying, DEP, please issue a timeout so that the appropriate boards, commissions, districts, abutters can go through the process. And if we can get the timeout, then it would seem the Dayton Water District's got to jump in and say, okay, here's our problem, all right? We're abutters, and everything from the public water supply to the wellheads and all of that. And they can get in touch with the appropriate boards, commissions in Taunton. But the action that has been taken in total is by the city of Taunton, because all those boards, commissions, conservation offices, whatever, it's all been taken by people who work for them or are authorized to act on the city's behalf. So if we were to send a request to the city of Taunton, you don't know where it would go or how long it would take. And in the meantime, the whole thing is continuing down the road. But since Lisa has talked to DEP and they recommended that the letter go to them, that's why we were talking about doing this, Dayton talking to DEP, just to ask for, we need a timeout Because, and then let all those people that have the, own the property, have the rights, the abutting and all that, speak up and say what they want, or at least have an opportunity to weigh in on it.
Yeah, the other part is each one, like the town of Dayton has their own ordinance, their own bylaw, and they protect aquifer, they have aquifer protection zones in itself that, you know, as part of the Wetlands Protection Act and as part of their bylaw, they are supposed to be, you know, protecting public water supplies. They also have the right, the authority to have hire outside consultants.
Yeah, that doesn't appear that that was done in this case.
The conservation agent in Taunton also admitted to Lisa, she just messed up royally.
The burden of proof is on the applicant to prove all these things. I just feel also that the plans and the application itself omitted very important information.
Does anybody else have anything?
The city of Taunton knew better. The conservation agent in Taunton knew better.
Well, like she said, take the time out and look at it again.
Absolutely.
So that's all we're asking for.
Yeah, and since the Dayton Water District obviously is the biggest landowner and the one most affected by whatever's going to happen up there or is happening, and they're not going to meet for almost a month, and 2 commissioners are in Florida, which I know they can still have Zoom meetings, and the superintendent didn't feel that he had the authority to go to DEP and ask for that. So that's why he was here and we discussed the whole thing. We think the best opportunity, the most clout would come from the town of Dayton. But at least all we want to do is buy some time. And then Dayton can step back and let those who should be speaking, speak, the landowners. So is there anything else? Anyone have questions, comments?
So the letter is coming from Mike.
Yes, yes.
As long as Mike has more work, I'm on table with this. So, great idea.
That's why he's here.
Mike, do you need to know who made that comment, or can you figure?
I can figure it out even without the, yes, it's obvious.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Mike, just before I ask for a motion on this?
No, this conversation was very helpful. I did take some notes, so, and we'll have and I will have a letter that goes out by the close of business this afternoon. So.
Okay. Is there a motion, or can we get a motion that the Stormwater Committee is requesting that the town of Dayton contact the DEP and request an emergency cease and desist order for land disturbances at, what's the location, Lisa?
It would be Taunton Assessors Map 101, parcel 27, Winthrop Street.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Mr. Fernet.
Aye.
Mr. Pilling.
Aye.
Mr. Aggie.
Aye.
Mr. Ferry.
Aye.
Tim, reach over. Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
And Mrs. Goulart, aye. Okay, Mike, other than some hesitancy on the part of one member of the committee, you do have a unanimous vote.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mullin.
Actually, Art, come on.
Well, we should have known more than in public.
Since we're talking about earth and disturbing earth and all that other good stuff. Okay, Agenda item 5B, review, discuss, act, 2371 County Street,
Where is this?
the former Hillview, I believe. Remember the Hillview restaurant up on the top of the hill across from the Baptist church?
Okay, now I know.
So this property, and there's actually several others. This is the old railroad bed that goes through there. Water runs down the railroad bed from north to south. And what's been happening is several owners in there have been dumping debris in there. This one particular one, 2371, it would appear that there's a lot of brush and stumps there, like maybe half the size of this building worth. There's a lot that they've been dumping over the edge and it's filling in. So what's been happening is all the spill that's been falling into the railroad bed, they just now dammed it up and we now have a lake instead of a stream. And so when conservation agent and I went out there and took a look at it, we felt that this was a Board of Health violation because you've got possible vermin, you've got stormwater violation to dam up the water, you've got a conservation violation because you're in a wetland. And you possibly have a business being operational at a residential address that's going on. So the thinking was that we should probably attack all three homeowners simultaneously and issue them letters, orders of cease and desist, whatever you want to call it. And we deal with them simultaneously because they're all doing the same thing. So I don't want to single out one over another one, but this one in particular is more dramatic than the others. But it seems like some of the others, it's been some of it is historical fill that's been there, but they keep adding to it.
So what you're describing at this location is more like land clearing debris as opposed to me picking up some limbs and tossing them out back or throwing some leaves out there?
I would say it was like yard clearing stuff. It was sticks and brush and grass clippings and leaves and some like shrubbery stumps and stuff like that. It would almost feel like it was a landscaping business.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it's landscaping business because I never saw a landscaping truck in there. It's just the type of debris looks like more than that one house could generate.
So it's illegal dumping too?
Yes. Yeah.
There was like more than just.
I remember like a 2x4 or something like that, but it was mostly what looked like cleaning up yard type stuff. Like I said, it would appear that like a landscaper was dumping all their stuff there. But again, I never saw a landscaper. I'm not saying that. It looks like more than a resident, one single family home yard. This is a duplex. More than one duplex could produce.
So will the letters be issued by the Board of Health and the Stormwater Committee or one?
Well, the Board of Health, I'm issuing a vermin letter.
Okay.
Which is a public health nuisance. That's completely different. I can do that on my own. The stormwater letter, I mean, technically, I guess as a stormwater agent, I can do it as a stormwater chairman, but I felt the entire committee should be aware of it. We might even want to do a sidewalk so everybody can see it. But like I say, there's more than one owner down here that's doing stuff, so I do believe we need to go after all the simultaneously. If we try and do one, we're gonna have the same conversation again, the next one, and the next one, so to me, it seemed easier.
I just want to be clear, why were you there initially?
Lisa, why were we there originally?
Was a complaint filed?
I brought Lisa there originally,
Yeah.
looking for a continuation of the nature.
But there was some neighbor or somebody, something about some tree cutting somewhere.
Yeah, that was a big crowd as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to be aware of the full background.
Yep.
Graphics at the.
Well, and then we also were made notified that the Board of Health actually received a complaint in our office about the fill that was being dumped here. And then I believe the Selectmen's office also got a complaint about it too. So there have been written complaints that have come in from both offices. So would this committee like to do a site walk to go look at it? Would we, just want to authorize the chairman to send out the, what was the letter? We drafted one. It was a cease and desist. It was a notice of general bylaw violation, and it requested that they respond to the Dayton Board of Health within like 10 days, and then we can, and then we would schedule for a meeting.
So that railroad bed, I assume, is like in the backyard of everybody on Pleasant Street?
And the backyard of everybody on County Street.
Up until there.
Okay, okay. Let's see.
They already received the Board of Health letter? or that's-
No, the letter hasn't gone out. It's
So
fine.
we drafted one. But it was gonna go out like on Monday this week. I'm like, hey, if we got a meeting on Thursday, let's just bring it to everybody, make sure the plan of attack is for everybody. So
That's a bunch of questions of how it's gonna play out. So they probably gonna at least call you with a response to that letter. And I imagine the initial cleanup is gonna start either in IDA or NOI.
yes.
So they're gonna be made aware of that. They're not just gonna start cleaning up.
Mrs. Caledonia's letter is also going to accompany Board of Health letter. We're going to be issued at the same time.
Yeah, I gave it.
It's
Yeah,
on
the
my
stormwater
desk.
letter, yeah.
It's on my desk because I've been charged by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to make sure these letters get out. So Lisa's letter's on my desk, and I'm hoping this letter, with this, after this committee ends up on my desk, and then he'll be served by a constable.
And the Board of Health letter.
And the Board of Health.
Okay, all right.
I think you all have a copy of Nancy's letter.
In your package. Yeah, but I think he asked me for like a signed one, because the May, so the letter you have in your packet, it's got a red date in red of May 5th when they have to get a hold of the Board of Health. And then presumably we would put them on our May 26th meeting to discuss, have them come in on May 26th. That's what we're hoping for. And then, yes, we're gonna have to file a notice of intent or whatever with the Conservation Commission and basically clean the place up. This is gonna take a little while. This isn't a one-day cleanup. This is a big project.
And the one behind what I call the Hillview Restaurant, that's not owner occupied. That belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore on Miller's Lane.
That's who's going to be
So
served.
where is it?
Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore on Miller's Lane. She was, her maiden name was Enos, Jean Enos. Her brother Al lives like,
Oh, yeah, on Hart Street, I know.
Yeah, so the owner of the property is gonna be served, not the.
all right, but that's that one location, but the other two homes that you're talking about, they may all, that, one of them is Al, which is, he's Jeannie's brother. And I'm not sure who the other, of the middle house is. I don't know who lives there, but in any case, yeah, I understand that. So if I'm standing facing the Hillview, is it the house to the immediate right going south? Or is it also dumping to the left of that, north side?
I don't know which one it will be.
It's the great big one across from the Baptist church. It's a two-story.
The white one? That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think there's any house.
Multiple properties which.
But there's a landowner, I just don't know who it is.
Remember Evan Dupon's house?
No, that's too far down. No, that's too far south.
So would that be a big, a stretch of the railroad bed that the house would be on the Pleasant Street side of things? It would be dumping there possibly?
Yes.
This one,
No.
it's this one, 2371.
Yeah, all right, but that's the Hillview. But where are the other two going south?
Yeah.
That's the question.
What was the number?
2371.
Yeah, up on the screen here. So this one here is 2371, I think.
Yep.
So you can see the old railroad bed was going through here.
Yeah.
So there's some fill that's down in here also. So I think it might be like possibly this owner, right? And I think there might even be some up here too. So we don't necessarily know where the property line's in there, but everybody's using it as a dumping ground is basically what it comes down to.
And then there's one parcel that it looks like they showed intentionally to extend their lawn, which I think is 2470, correct? Let's see. Sorry. I'm not gonna go by that, 2484.
Like, can I not? Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's the last right now. Yeah, it's 2420 Pleasant is what, BAEGHT.
Oh, so it's both,
Them.
it's on both sides of the railroad bed.
Yeah, you can't really tell with the actual railroad. was.
Except where you can see where it was, and if you follow a straight line, you're gonna hit it.
So again, I think a site walk would be in order too, but.
I think it's that.
Okay, so there is one. Okay, all right, yep.
And there's a catch basin here, over here. At the end.
Oh, this is hot, down my Hot Street, right?
And then the catch basin drains according to.
Okay, all right, so, then we need a motion to authorize that the letter be sent. So do you want to do a site walk first, or how do you want to do this?
Well, we know that the property located at 2371 is a violator.
Yeah.
So I would encourage the board to make the motion to at least send that property. If the site walk could be done afterwards to see if any other properties need to be cited, that would be my suggestion.
Okay.
We know factually that 2371 is a violator.
Okay, so is there a motion to send a letter to the owners of 2371 County Street regarding all of the conditions that were mentioned by the health agent? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Mr. Pilling?
Aye.
Mr. Aggie?
Aye.
Mr. Ferry?
Aye.
Mr. Rhines?
Aye.
Mr. Goulart, aye.
Thank you.
So is there something I need to sign so that,
Yes.
okay,
And I'm gonna have both of these letters served by constable on Monday.
okay. Agenda item 5C, discuss upcoming deadline to update post-construction bylaws and regulations. This was something that came through attached to one of the notices about the various workshops they have. Now, I think, Mr. Ferry, you looked at this and you had said to me that our regs look like they're in pretty good shape. Does that ring a bell?
Morning, people.
No, not this morning. This has been a while ago. This is February. Okay. The only thing that stood out in my mind is they use the 1 acre disturbance of land. And if we're going to be making changes, we probably should look at whether we want to go from 35,000 square feet to an acre on our bylaw thing. But I mean, not today, but we just got to make sure what we have. That's the only thing that I could see that I think our bylaws and our regulations address most of these. I have concerns about phosphorus. That's always whenever they say phosphorus and nitrogen and all that, Mr. Ferry and I shudder. But other than that, I think we're going to be okay. It's saying we have to update them by June 30th of this year. But we'll take a look at them and see if there's any need.
Well, if I can just throw out there, I mean, if we're gonna be revising our regulations, I mean, honestly, the regs that we were just talking about, I know we're not discussing it now, but Ms. Touch was in here earlier. Is there some clarifications to our regs in 2009 that we should probably consider making to make it a little better? I would personally like to see some regulations thrown in there about solar farms, about using, let's say, grass instead of meadow for their post-development, that kind of thing. Or, just maybe update them a little bit. I didn't say a lot, just maybe do some tweaking and then we can incorporate some of this.
Right. The last time anything was done was back during that time period, and 2010 or prior. A lot of things have changed since then, especially we weren't dealing with solar farms back then. We were just talking about ordinary construction things. I think the other thing we need to do is refer to this committee, because we didn't have this committee back then. and we're the ones that are responsible for enforcing the bylaw and the regulations and all that other stuff. So the, I don't know if you want to call it powers, duties, whatever, enforcing agency relative to the Stormwater Committee is something we probably need to add to.
Right, so as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I think we should put on our agenda to revise our regs, and I know it's gonna, if we gotta do it by June 30th, it doesn't leave us a lot of time to post the hearing. Well, it's not a hearing, it's a public meeting for it. And post it in the paper, whatever we have to do to revise the regs. But I know we have to come up with what we want for regs before we have a hearing.
The other thing too is, my feeling is if what we have currently pretty much meets this, other than the 1 acre thing, right? I think would be okay for the June 30th deadline, but yes, I think we ought to start working on making these changes. And maybe they're not all changes, maybe they're just clarifications of existing, exactly what does this mean, or add a sentence to define something so that it's not ambiguous.
I had something that I wanted to bring up. I think this is an appropriate time. I haven't till date because of all the hearings we've had. I'm hoping that that subsides in the weeks and months to come. But I would like this committee to bring up low impact development discussion. I think that we could spearhead an effort to move Dayton toward LIDs and make recommendations to the planning board and zoning board as such. So I think that would be great, especially on MS4 reporting, if we became a low impact development community.
Well, that was part of that whole Audubon thing that we've been kicking around, it's on here as 6E. Audubon was recommending we add some of that into our regs. So again, when we do our regulation change, we can just incorporate Audubon stuff right into it. We just do it all at once. It's just whether or not we're revising the bylaw or the regulations. The bylaw takes a lot more doing. Regulations, we just have a public hearing and we deal with it.
And all this change doesn't have to happen by June 30. We have a fall town meeting that we have. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel in short order, but I think we need to start the discussion.
And regulations do not require a town meeting vote. It's only the bylaw. If any changes or additions are made that go to town meeting. So all we have to do for regulation changes is have a public meeting. We don't even have to put it in the paper. We just have to get the word out that we're going to have a meeting and we would post whatever changes are being planned. So
I actually thought it would be a good idea to have, go to the outside and get a vendor to come in and do a session or a training on LIDs, low impact development, maybe with some slides and some, real world scenarios so that we can actually fully understand it. Some of us on this committee understand them, some of us don't. So I think if everyone understands what low impact development is and what effect it has on stormwater, it would be beneficial to us.
And then honestly, we could even use that for public outreach too and get that type of information somewhere.
Okay.
I'm going to get in touch with Bill Napolitano at Serpent and find out if we have any hours available and see if they can do something, or if we have any money available that we might be able to do a, let's say, a general workshop meeting for any boards, commissions, public, anybody that wants to come in and listen to it, just for educational purposes. And Roz, would you put that down for a future agenda item, please? Any other discussion on agenda 5C? Other than we've already covered this, so I think we're all set. Okay, old business. Update on 170 Beach Street.
They filed the perk cap, but there's been 2 inches standing water in the yard, so we haven't actually scheduled a date yet. So we're waiting for the yard. Once the surface goes dry, then we can at least think about digging the hole.
The selectmen have supported the installation of drainage infrastructure, and it's my understanding, highway superintendent is filing with the Conservation Commission, so you can actually do that work. Is that true?
we will be filing an RDA. I believe the work that needs to be done inside that, I believe they have to go for NOI also.
What work?
Any work that's gonna happen inside the park on Down Beach Street.
Swale's already there. Swale's already there.
Well, either way, he's gonna file something with the Concom.
Yeah, they have to do at least an RDA to determine what rate they are. It's gonna be inside the resource area.
I think it all can go within an RDA.
Yeah, I think it all should be at one time. If we're gonna put this to rest, I think we need to stop with the roadblocks. If it can all be done at the same time, then that would be my suggestion, is to do it at the same time. If it's not legally possible, then let's let the property owners know so we can get this fixed. There is a little bit of frustration in my voice, yes.
It's legally possible, I can't file for them.
Why can't it be all done at the same time?
Because we're not the property owners.
You get two different property owners involved in this project.
We don't know who owns the road, that's the problem.
Or property.
Don't you see the complexity here? I'm not being a smart ass, I'm being serious. We don't know who owns the roads.
This has been going on for 100 years.
So either something's gonna get fixed or it's gonna stay in perpetuity. And what, you have a house that can't get occupied?
No. It's just what she's saying is you get different property owners, so it.
I understand
different
that.
terms and conditions.
But so that's every abutter in Dayton Rock Park owns the roads.
No. My understanding, when we looked at this before, when there was almost a decision to take over all those roads, my understanding is the section, so let's just focus on the section of the road of Beach Street that would be involved in this. Up to the middle of the road, whoever is on either side owns to the middle. Those would be the abutters, not everyone in the entire place, because they don't have a homeowners association. And when all those angry people came into town meeting a few years ago, everyone was screaming about their deeded rights, their deeded rights to the beach, that as a common, what they call a beach, as a common asset, I don't know what you call it. But also when we looked at that, if we were to take over that, we would be doing easements on both sides of the roads up to the middle. That's what we would have to do. So
Maybe in 2008?
the other side and look at the section of Beach Street. On either side of Beach Street, to get out to the culvert on Pleasant Street,
Okay.
who owns the property? And if
Yeah, because
there's
there's an addendum.
property that the
It's like
owner is
when
unknown,
What addendum?
so you move ahead with it. If they come out of the woodwork, then you deal with it. This is what we've done with easements. Thank goodness, we only had one, and that was the river bottom. Nobody's claimed that yet. That sounds silly, but in effect, that's how you do it.
I can't find
So
that.
you just need to know who owns property on either side of the
Maybe
section of Beach Street that could be affected by getting this water, getting this moved out to connect up to the work you're gonna do on
Is that what
Pleasant Street.
happened in 10 then?
The answer to your question is.
And there's nothing in 10.
You don't have to be the owner to file an RDA.
What the hell?
You need the owner's permission, but a notice of intent requires an order of conditions to be recorded on each lot, so that would be separate notice of intent. And that's where.
No, I was just wondering like if
The
there's
way I
anything
understand
else
it, in a resource area, it
have
cannot be done
Audubon
on
being
a
included.
couple zone. So this is where it's
Oh,
gonna
wait.
get.
And that's,
And
that will suffice.
It's just a matter of what. How many people have to sign it? How many people have to sign it?
The swale that Jim's talking about, that needs to be stamped, is through the Pleasant Street address.
The one on the corner?
Yeah.
So do they need an RDA or an NOI? Can someone answer that question, please?
Sorry, I'm trying to.
We're not drawing that one. It's not happening.
We can have a sketch or something.
It's not. Then it's not gonna get fixed.
No, I'm just saying, sketch. I mean, what's that road are we even talking about here? Like,
It's not gonna get fixed.
She's talking about,
both sides of Pleasant Street?
yeah,
No,
no.
all my work is gonna be within Pleasant Street layout on the east side.
So on the Beach Street side.
Yes.
That's all we have to do.
I'll be installing a structure and piping it to an existing structure.
Why the hell do we have to do
So if
that?
the work's in the roadway, then it's not in a resource area.
That's for the police station?
And you're only disturbing two homes, so you're not disturbing the other side of the road.
And the swale,
The Beach Street Swale is adjacent to the
and it's already there.
Sorry, I'm just going crazy today.
Right.
The problem is the water service running down Beach Street. The water district wanted it on the shoulder. And that, butter that I mentioned, wouldn't allow that to happen, so they were forced to put it right on the edge of the grade of Beach Street. The swale that needs to be enhanced is gonna be where they couldn't put the water line, where they desired to put the water line. So I think we still have a hurdle.
So,
Will that homeowner, we're talking about the house we visited a few years ago, I assume?
Yeah.
Aren't they gonna benefit from this also because they've got a floating backyard also? That might be justification
the
for
whole
them.
neighborhood is gonna benefit, because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen, and this is a fact. When the septic system goes in on the corner on 170 Beach Street, through displacement, all the water is not going to go in that yard anymore.
No,
That means it's gonna flood out the other neighbors across Park Avenue and maybe even to the north of the Pleasant Street property.
In Southie.
That means instead of it affecting one property, it's now gonna affect many properties.
right.
So again, I'm not asking anybody to do anything illegal, but are we gonna fix a problem? Or are we just gonna kick this can down the road until it becomes a problem for someone else?
Okay, so getting back to my statement a few minutes ago. The Beach Street property abuts the farm on the corner.
Right.
The farm on the corner also has a floating backyard. If the farm on the corner allows, gives permission, whatever, so that water will flow from both the Beach Street property and their own property to get out to where you want to be, to get to your culvert, whatever it is. It would seem it's going to be beneficial for both of them. So that may be justification for them to say, I'll give you permission to do that. That's what we need to know. If they say absolutely not, I mean, I can't imagine them wanting to have that floating backyard forever. And it's, I mean, a lot of water back there. I mean, we've seen it at different times of the year. So if in fact that property owner says, okay, yeah, all right, we can benefit from this, what would have to be done to allow you to move forward to do the culvert work on Pleasant?
Nothing, that they wouldn't hold me up. The only dilemma would be is if they would never allow that to happen, I would be doing all my work for nothing.
All right, but obviously we would have to have the permission.
The written permission.
Written, yes, we would have to have written permission that says we will allow the, whatever.
But that's the document that would be filed with RDA with Concom, with the owner's permission with, basically.
So the next step is we'd have to contact the owner of the property.
So I can tell you that verbally, we have permission. If you need it in writing, then I will mediate that and get it in writing so that we can move forward with this.
And we're only going to be dealing with two properties, correct?
Yes.
The one on Pleasant Street
Well,
and Beach Street.
my RDA is going to notify a 300-foot buffer, so there's going to be an audience, just so I will know.
Yeah, but that's all right. The permission that the town of Dayton needs is coming from two property owners. Beach Street, because he abuts it, and then the farm on Pleasant Street, because we need to get through their property. You know, everybody else, I don't have a problem with everybody knowing about it.
They're gonna know
Furthermore,
about it eventually.
furthermore, you know, people drive up and down Pleasant Street, there's gonna be the phone call that says, what's the street department doing down there? What are they supposed to do? All right, so, but the bottom line is, we need permission from one person, one property, or however it's held, that house on Pleasant Street, whoever owns that property, if they will just put it in writing that they will allow this to occur, we will have that, and you can move ahead. Nobody's going to be violating anything, correct?
Correct.
My big concern is, say the town messes something up, right, and you're causing flooding on someone else's property.
No, that's not what we're talking about. What just was discussed was, we have two properties that abut each other, and they both have water, all right? Both of them would benefit from the the work that we're talking about.
Yeah.
What Mr. Ferry is saying is, I gotta have something that authorizes me to do that on the property on Pleasant Street, because the guy on Beach Street, he's gonna say, please do it.
Yeah.
So once that's given in writing, he's got the authorization to move forward. He's not planning to do anything else down there except exactly what has been outlined and what the Board of Selectmen approved for him to do. The missing piece is the written okay from one property owner. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you, Bill. Roz, make a note, he stepped out, okay?
Todd, you can correct, you can file a notice of intent with the homeowner's permission, correct, if you're not.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can. It's just if you're doing a notice of intent, it's an order of conditions, and if you get multiple properties, it's multiple orders of conditions, that's where it gets messy. But it's whether it's, if the RDA should be able to do it as long as the owners sign off on it. Somebody other than the owner can do the work and file the RDA.
I'll get permission from the homeowners to do whatever's needed to make you and you legally happy. I need you two to work together to get it fixed. So that the fire chief and I don't have to vacate houses that are occupied. It's called teamwork.
You each will get a shovel, okay? All right, so we'll, I think we need to vote to authorize Mr. Aggie to contact the property owner on Pleasant Street to get written permission for the town to make the necessary connection to the, all right, Pleasant Street, Beach Street, for the town to make the necessary connection to the, is it basin? What do you call it?
I don't need their permission for the basin.
No, it's the necessary paperwork.
It's the ditch that's gotta come from the 170 Beach Street to get to my basin.
Okay.
Goes to that property, so those two addresses have to talk to each other.
All right, to give the town permission to work in the ditch that abuts 170 Beach and whatever the number is for Pleasant Street, is that what it has to say?
If you so desire, yes, I need that directive to go in there.
Okay, it's not what I desire. You need permission to go in the ditch on the Beach Street address and the Pleasant Street address. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because the Pleasant Street work itself is on town property.
Correct.
Okay, so I need a motion to that effect that would authorize Mr. Aggie to make the contact with the two property owners so that the town will be authorized to do the necessary work in that ditch to make the connection to the town's storm system, is that what we call it? Storm drainage system.
I will make the motion with discussion.
There's a motion, is there a second? We have a second. Discussion.
Do you need any easements for all eternity to maintain this well? No, I'm making sure. If we're gonna go for permission, we might as well get it all.
It's gonna stay private. That was always discussed. Stay private. Would you agree? Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay.
So the only friendly amendment I'll make to that motion is that we include in all necessary paperwork.
Okay.
You're gonna do all of them? Awesome.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna work with Tom. I'm gonna work with Tom.
Another shovel. 3 shovels now. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Mr. Pilling?
Aye.
Mr. Aggie?
Aye.
Mr. Ferry?
Aye.
And Mr. Rhines?
Aye.
And Mrs. Bulatz, aye.
Thank you.
Update on Brook Street Solar Project.
Yes.
Whoever wants to weigh in on this.
Yeah. As far as I know, everything has been satisfied. I have a fully signed off permit application in my desk. I've done my review and I'm about to issue the permit early next week. All being said, I've been in contact with the new contractor, which I now have all of their information, licensing, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. They want to schedule a pre-construction meeting as soon as possible. in our stormwater permit, I believe it defines who is to, at the very minimum, be part of that meeting. So it's my intention today to ask of you who wants to be at this meeting and when can he schedule it.
Is this going to be at Brook Street?
I would assume that we would meet at the site, yes.
Okay.
And just throw out that the stormwater permit is ready, when we give it to them at the pre-construction meeting, but it's all ready to go, so. Just as a brief aside, are we gonna try and walk 2371 County Street too? Do we wanna try and do that the same day, or
What day is this?
we haven't decided the
This
date?
is Friday.
Okay, Thursday.
Sunday morning, 7 o'clock.
And we probably need to be there, probably will not be available the week of May 17th.
Oh, no. I'm issuing this permit next Tuesday and they're looking to have this meeting right away.
Friday too.
Yeah, and
Answering.
because it's a pre-construction meeting, we need to make ourselves available as quickly as possible.
I just have one comment before you guys finish. So, 0 Brook Street, our NOI, I got the new plan, construction. The date is different than what was submitted on the orders. So
Nancy really does.
are they on the meeting right now? No. I'll have to send Nick an email and let him know that just for the record, if they could just request that be the plan that we do.
Okay, all right.
Because the only change was already reviewed and approved by the commission, but because these are construction documents.
Were you not included in that email? That said
Yeah.
These were I think it says these are the reference documents. These are the
But
documents.
the board still voted though, that's right.
Okay, so you'll,
So our next meeting is May 20th.
okay.
So I just want them to
Okay.
send us a letter saying, with the plans, a
Okay.
couple more copies.
Okay,
Or,
okay. So will you reach out to Nick directly for that?
yeah, I don't know if I should reply all on that one or just Nick.
I would just reply to Nick.
Yeah.
So the 27th, you have that ready to go? So should we do that site visit? I mean, that pre-construction meeting on the 27th?
Do it whenever you like.
I have about 100 meetings on the 27th. Don't we,
So what's one more?
don't we, Mr. Town Administrator? How many meetings we have on the 27th?
You muted.
We have a few. I actually kind of chuckled.
What does the 28th look like at, say, 10:30 in the morning or in the afternoon?
That's on the 27th. They're talking the 28th.
What about the 28th? What does that look like?
What time?
Well, 10:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Can we do it tomorrow?
Are you gonna give them the permit tomorrow?
Sure.
No, not tomorrow.
Hey, it's Arbor Day. That's where the tree warden has to be out there doing his elected duties.
So the contractor said pick a day, they'll make their team available, so,
Okay.
that's what we're trying to do.
What about the 29th?
Next one, no, who's wrong with the 28th?
28th at either 10:30 or 1 PM.
Nothing, it was just, I was gonna say that the stormwater pre-construction meeting doesn't have anything to do with the building permit, so the two don't have to, we could do our stormwater pre-construction meeting and get your
I
permit.
know, I just want this thing done, I want the permit issued, so I'm there, it's ready to be issued, so we're fine.
I think we need the fire chief there.
She's back Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, we're satisfied with waiting one, we don't have certain changes.
So, but I think Wednesday is.
Okay, how about, the chief's back, what, Monday? How about 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 28th, at the Brook Street bend in the road?
We have our school nurse meeting at 1, but.
You got a meeting that day?
Yeah, we meet with the school nurses every Wednesday at 1. We could move it if we had to, but.
Who can make 1 o'clock on Wednesday?
Everyone.
Can you move that then, Todd, please? Either sooner or earlier or whatever. So 1 PM on April 28th, Roz, if you post a meeting, and it will be a pre-construction meeting at the Brook Street site. And Mr. Mullen, if you're available, you're welcome to come.
Thank you. That means I'll be done writing town meeting warrant articles on the 28th, so that is good. What time is it though? Sorry.
1 p.m.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. As long as Mr. Aguilar is going to be there, because I love seeing him in meetings.
As opposed to Mr. Ferry?
Yes.
Wow, that was unique.
Mr. Ferry opened up that door.
He did.
You sort of kicked it open. Okay, agenda item 60, anything on Borrego Solar project on Elm Street? What's happening up there with solar? Anything?
Yeah, I was just waiting for correspondence from Mr. Pilling and Ms. Caledonia. They said they'll get to me. We're gonna ship one letter off to them, tell them everything that's outstanding.
Oh,
Sort of
okay.
like a punch list. Everybody's just been busy, so they haven't been able to
Okay,
get-
that's on.
And I forgot about it.
Right.
Okay, that's on phase 2.
That's on phase 2.
Okay.
Ms. Caledonia inquired about doing a walk at the site. And I think we're gonna wait for a nice sunny day and go for a walk, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as phase 1, the only thing I'm waiting for is information for the pilot agreement, but that doesn't affect the Stormwater Committee. Agenda item 16, Bristol County Aggie School update.
Yeah, so it's my understanding, and Tom might be able to, Tuesday of this week, they were supposed to work on the overflow tank for the pump station. Did that go off?
They worked on it, they plan I have not seen yet, they found a way to get to the patch inside the fencing area.
Right.
Haven't seen the plan yet. So they're getting closer, the 2 engineers there, and now so they're collaborating well.
Okay. So that discussion ensued because the student commons building is getting ready to close out. So I reminded them that they wouldn't get a CO until they got the sewer pump station online. It all looks like it's going to happen pretty well. Monday, the fire department and I have a walkthrough on a preliminary basis.
Of that student
Of the
building?
student building.
Wow.
So we're going to discuss potential occupancy at that time. So it looks like within the next week, 10 days, that E building will be open for use.
Wow.
So I haven't seen any problems with stormwater runoff. We've had a couple of rainstorms, but I think they've continued to.
Typically,
So,
yeah.
Very big on special them move on and come out there,
right. So overall, it's still working smoothly. And I did receive notification, a little off topic, from Superintendent Sands that the cabinets that we requested be donated to the town are ours.
Excellent.
So we need to go pick those up.
And by we, he needs you.
For the old keep
Well, I figured him and Lisa could look at it.
No, from the museum, the Natural History Museum. Just a little
Oh,
background, the Historical Commission requested Mike Barabee to construct a cabinet to display the Frederick Anderson medal. And in the course of talking about that, Mr. Aggie asked about a potential donation, so I got attended. And Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Perry, Barabee and I met the superintendent director, and in addition to finding a beautiful cabinet for that and other things, there were a number of cabinets that they don't need that we asked for. And what he's saying is the trustees voted to let us have that. And what I said was, we'll make sure that those cabinets have little notice donated by the county, the Aggie School.
Thank you so much,
That
Valerie.
we initially selected is multi-shelf, which can be adjusted. It has a solid back, but it has glass sides and a glass front, so you can see it from 3 angles. And then of course there'll be other artifacts, but I think it's gonna work out well. Okay, so we'll keep the Aggie School on each month, so we'll have an update on them. Update on the Audubon bylaw. There was no additional feedback that I'm aware of. And Now I'm wondering that based upon what we're talking about, our own bylaw and regulations and stuff, we should probably notify Danica that the Stormwater Committee is looking at some of their own regulations and bylaws, and we'll see what can be incorporated from what she recommended. So just to let her know we're working on it, but it's certainly not ready. We're not ready to take it to town meeting if there were going to be any proposed bylaw changes. But at least she'll know we're working on it. Does that work for everybody? Okay, update on status of subdivision stormwater structure inventory.
Yeah, I picked the subdivision, but I haven't been able to go out and actually run through the list. My apologies, but we'll continue to work on that.
Okay.
I want to run it through its trials, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay. Item 6G, Forest Hills Housing Development. They asked for a continuation last night, so there's nothing new, unless you have something, Mr. Rhines?
Nothing new. We did ask the applicant a few questions, specifically asking them to redo a traffic study that's not been done in over 12 years, and specifically where they're going to require the water from. So those are the main questions that we asked of them. And again, yes, the chairwoman of state listed did ask for a continuance until May 19th for the public hearing. And again, we're just in the infancy stages of the project itself.
Water, what about sewer?
That would be, again, the question that we asked of them and who they contacted, who they utilize their services from. I had an indirect meeting with Mr. Tracy from, who I believe, with the water district up there, and spoke with them, and he was very happy that we had asked those questions, because I think, this is just me saying this, I think that the North Dayton Water and Fire District would be more than willing to service them with water, but under certain conditions, which I just can't say right now at this point.
Okay. So that's been continued, what, for another month?
Yes, till May 19th.
Okay. So that's May 19th. Is there anything under agenda item 6H, Hunters Hill Development? Do you have any info? What's happening?
I have nothing for the planning board, but I did happen to watch briefly, I believe they were up with conservation. I watched that meeting, about 15 minutes of that with Mr. Cassidy, their lawyer. I don't know how far that went in regards to conservation, looking at their plans up there in Hunters Hill.
They're requesting.
They're requesting.
They're not done.
Okay. We had asked them to do that, to reflag their wetlands, specifically on the area of the golf course. We had asked them to do that, so.
Okay, so we'll continue this one on the agenda too. Under correspondence, Mr. Hull gave me a copy of the letter yesterday. This is from Omni Environmental Group. It was addressed to the Town of Dayton Board of Selectmen. The subject is release notification form, release of number 2 fuel oil, Dayton Rehoboth Regional High School. To whom it may concern, in accordance with the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, 310 CMR 40.1403, small h, and on behalf of the Dayton Rehoboth Regional High School, as the potentially responsible party identified by Mass DEP under release tracking number, and so forth and so on. Purpose of this letter is to notify the town of Dayton of a release of number 2 fuel oil that occurred at the above referenced site. The enclosed copy of the release notification form, which was submitted to Mass DEP, provides more information concerning the release and to notify you of your rights to request additional public involvement activities under 310 CMR, appropriate citation as applicable, and upon tier classification if performed under said CMR. Please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned if you have any questions, comments, require additional information. And this is from Gregory R. Moran, LSP, Principal for Omni Environmental. So this was the notification. I'm going to leave it here for the appropriate board or whatever to take this. I think this is like what happened down at the North Woods. So it's a notification, it happened, and somebody's monitoring it.
They already have contractors on site, they've been on site for over a month. And there is some building modifications that need to be done because the contaminated soils went under the footing of one of the buildings. So I've been working with the contractor, structural engineers to rectify the problem.
How many gallons was the spill, do we know?
No one has it yet. It was over 15 gallons. Why you get that? Or is it 25?
That was the above ground tank?
15? Yeah.
Jim, I'll bet what watch it up was.
Right.
So the trigger is 15 gallons?
Yeah. That number jumped into my head, so I'm gonna stick with it, but yeah.
So they no longer burn, they no longer burn number 6?
They have it for backup. They primarily use wood chips now.
Is that working again? Because it had gone down for a while.
Yeah, no, it's operational, but the number 2 oil is there for backup, so.
Okay. I was thinking number 6 would never run into the building. You have to heat it up to move it.
Right.
And this kind of weather, it's probably solidified.
They've been on top of it. I've been in communication with Mr. Kitchen, so the school's been all over it.
Okay.
They responded appropriately.
Okay. And let's see. That's question. Is there any other public input? Does anybody have anything they want to bring up as a future agenda item or anything we haven't discussed today that we should consider in the future?
I got one thing real quick.
Yes.
There is a lot on William Street. It's like you come out Wellington straight across. Just a little bit. They're putting in an estate lot, single family home, over 35,000 square feet of disturbance, no conservation involved. So they filed for a stormwater permit, which I've got it prepared. I mean, we've done this before, single family house, or it's been me as the agent that issued it. The only conditions I was asking for is that they put a construction exit pad at William Street. It's all uphill to William Street, and so everything is running down, so we just want to make sure they don't crack out into the street. And a pre-construction meeting just to go over it. They're putting up erosion control at the 100-foot buffer, so they don't go into the conservation buffer. And that's it, but I just wanted to let the board know I was giving them a stormwater permit, because it is over 35,000 square feet.
Isn't there a brand new house on Wellington Street that's right near that? Is that?
Well, this is Wellington. If you came out Wellington and drove straight across.
I meant Wellington. There's a brand new house.
That brand new house is right in the middle of 2 entrances for estate lots.
Oh,
They've only asked for one so far. They're still working on the other one. But
so are those retreat lots?
retreat lots, retreat lots. I said.
Okay.
Retreat lots.
Okay, so it's potentially they might build 2 houses?
2 more houses.
Oh, okay,
1 for certain, 2 possible.
okay.
I just wanted to disclose something for the record. I wanted to disclose the fact that I flagged that site for Tony Roderick a couple of years ago. So I delineated the wetlands.
Well, there's no conservation filing.
There's no
Right, he's staying outside the 100 foot.
Okay. Anything else under public input? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April the 6th. Yes.
Let's say you missed your window.
Someone brought to my attention, hey, does Dayton have rain barrels? I said, no, I don't think so. Just a thought.
No.
Lisa, I didn't understand you.
She asked if Dayton has rain barrels.
You were on the phone earlier when I brought this up. I want to open up the discussion about LID, development,
Great.
so we can bring that all in at the same time.
As part of the whole regulation change from Audubon and all that.
Yeah.
Do it all in one, I think one meeting to talk about regulations. I don't think we should do it with the rest of the stuff.
No, like a workshop session.
I actually want to see if we can have someone come in and speak to us about LIDs and do a show and tell and all that. That would be great.
Yeah, so what I said was I'll check with Bill Napolitano at Serpent to see if we've got any hours or any money where we could have somebody come in as part of the services that they have to provide for us, so it wouldn't be an additional cost. Okay, so we'll see how that goes.
Madam Chair, before you do,
Minutes?
approve the minutes, I just have a question. I'm looking at the document, the revised stormwater document, and I just want to fall back on that. If you go to page 2, it says under criminal penalty that a person could be fined some amount of dollars each day. Do we have a fee schedule any sort for that, any of this?
No, because the town Board of Health adopted, what is it? Non-criminal disposition. That's why there's no dollars in there, because we fall under the Board of Health, and so does the whole stormwater program, the bylaw and everything. And that was the reason why that was never filled in, because from time to time, they may criminal disposition fines may change, and we didn't want to go back and making those changes, but that's exactly what would happen. We, as the Stormwater Committee, really can't levy fines, but the Board of Health can, and we're under them, so that's why it was left this way. But yes, that's my question. Yeah.
We talked about this in town meeting at length and it was discussed, and I don't think anyone really comprehended where it was at that time. I still remember the attention to reading, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the questions. So we're saying that section 5 would be stricken and would be no criminal penalty. So in other words, would the bylaw have to be revised at all anyway to show that you're not going to use a criminal penalty?
Well, this is a regulation, so yes, we would revise this. This isn't the bylaw.
And it would just say in accordance with non-criminal disposition.
Yes. Yeah, so we wouldn't have to go the public notice and the public meeting, the public hearing route. So this will be all part of what we've been talking about that we want to do.
Mr. Mullen has his hand up.
Oh, Mr. Mullen.
Yes, Madam Chair, before you finish the meeting, I just wanted to ask if you could hop over, like after the meeting, I do have a question for you on a warrant.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is anything else? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April the 6th?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Burnett, second.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Burnett.
Aye.
Mr. Pilling.
Aye.
Mr. Aggie.
Aye.
Mr. Ferry.
Aye.
Wow, that was fast. Mr. Rhines.
Aye.
Mrs. Goulart, aye. Motion to adjourn, anybody?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Ferry, you're gonna second that?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor, Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Mr. Pilling?
Aye.
Mr. Aggie?
Aye.
Mr. Ferry? Okay. Mr. Rhines?
Aye.
Mrs. Goulart? We're adjourned. Yeah, I'll be over shortly, Mike.
All right,
Thank
meeting's
you,
adjourned.
everyone.
Stop recording.
Hey, Mr. Mullen.
Will you